listening to Zap Night, a video game review podcast. Join your hosts as we review video games from all systems and all genres. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Zap Night. I'm your host, Danny, and we have Lori back again. I actually counted, and you and Kaylee are like neck and neck on how many episodes you guys have recorded with me. So, like, I'm the only one who's been in almost every episode. But
it's time for me and Kaylee to do an episode.
There you go. That's a great idea. It's a great idea. Maybe you can start outnumbering me.
Maybe we'll do the next game and you can sit out.
That's interesting. I do have many other games that I should be playing.
Yeah.
So
anyway.
Today we are talking about calling. Not the calling, as I've been calling it. Just calling for the Nintendo Wii. Oh, and it's the 15th. What? And we're making a review podcast? What? Yeah. We're going to try and continue this on through the end of the year. So,
Didn't you do one last month? Or was last month Seth and Evans?
Last month was Seth and Evans. Sorry, Seth. Yeah. So this is the first 15th that is
Not them.
Yeah.
And it's still a review.
Yeah. So we're gonna try and keep the reviews at least until the end of the year. We'll see how things go after that. But we do have plans. We talked about it on Zap Chats. We do have plans of changing it up, but we don't have everything like hashed out perfectly. So until we figure it out, we'll let you guys know more information. Until then, we're sticking to reviews on the 15th and the 1st. So that's why we're here, talking about calling. So Calling is a horror survival game developed by Hudson Soft for the Wii. It was only released on the Wii. It was released in November 2009 in Japan, and then March in 2010 everywhere else. And that's about it. That's all I have for development stuff. There was some like preview demo that was, I don't know if it was a preview demo or there was some sort of information that was leaked like the year before it was released through like a PR server that got hacked or something like that. So like people knew about the game ahead of time, but it doesn't sound like that really changed anything. It just happened, I guess. So, fun little tidbit that I found on Wikipedia while I was looking it up.
I saw that too.
Oh, you did? Nice. So, we're going to talk about the story. We're probably going to butcher the story. If you don't want spoilers, if you have any inkling of playing this game whatsoever, play it first, because this game is a little more fun to experience the story than it is to be told the story and then go in to play it and be like, oh, well, I already know. Because honestly, the story is kind of like the highlight. The gameplay is not awesome. I mean, we'll talk about it more, but the story specifically, if you don't want anything to be spoiled, play it first, then come back and enjoy it with us. But otherwise, if you have no reason to play the game and you just want to listen to us talk about it, this is okay. Because we're going to do our best to explain the story. It's kind of confusing because of the way that the game told the story. They kind of told it in multiple different timelines, and they kind of told it in like not in a cohesive timeline. So what we're going to try and do is make it as cohesive as possible and hope that we don't screw it up too much. So, where should we start? Should we start with Rico?
Yes.
Let's start with what happened to Rico.
Yeah.
And this is like end game, so you don't really find this out until the very end. But again, to make it a cohesive like story, this is where it starts. So Rico is a 12-year-old girl, or was she 7? She was young.
10 or 12.
Okay.
That sounds right.
All right. Little girl. She gets put in the hospital because she's sick. They don't really go into detail of what she is sick from. They do talk about her having an operation that doesn't go or the operation itself goes fine, but like she doesn't get any better.
They also over the course of the diaries, you know that it's like a year-long thing.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. So she's in the hospital. She gets into the hospital. She's there over the course of at least a year, maybe more, maybe less. It's not exact, but while she's there, her mom is super busy and doesn't have enough time to see Ryoko very often. Is that her name? No, Rico. Rico.
You like mixed up the two names. Or her screen name and her name.
Yes, I did. I'm trying. These Japanese names are not the best for me. I'm not very good with names, period. So this is a struggle. Anyway, okay, so Rico, her mom isn't there, but instead her mom gives her a cell phone so that she can talk.
So they can still talk.
Right.
Yeah.
And this makes her really happy, and this makes her, every time she gets a chance to talk to her mom, she is a lot more excited and healthy in general. But as time goes on, her mom calls less and less and is just too busy for her.
Because her mom is working like a full-time job plus to pay for the hospital bills.
Right. But now, as a little girl, she doesn't know this.
Yeah.
All she sees is that her mom is less and less, interacting with her less and less, and it makes her depressed. So the nurse, I would assume her nurse, Koyoko, she teaches her how to use the computer, and she introduces her to, chat rooms and stuff like that.
This is after she breaks her phone, right?
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. She does throw her phone and breaks it.
Because her mom stops calling.
Yeah, and she gets upset. And so then she learns how to use the computer. And she starts using these forums where, she gets a chance to talk with people all over the world. And at first it was really good, but it slowly turned into, it's the internet. People are mean on the internet. And that's kind of what this was, trying to describe, is that slowly people got more and more ornery about, the situation. Oh, poor,
discrediting her.
Poor Rico. She's in the hospital all the time. And yeah, right. Is she even really in the hospital?
Yeah.
And that's when Rin steps in, and she in the forums, and she's trying to defend her, saying, don't be like that. This is really mean that you're doing this. And actually arranges a meeting with Rico. In the meantime, Rico befriends this old man who's in the hospital for something else. I don't know if they specified or not. They might have. And it doesn't matter. He's in the hospital. And Rico teaches the old man how to use the computer, and is just being friendly, really like her only friend there. And he introduces her to his wife, and they all become kind of close, but really she's so close with this old man, and then he passes away, and it makes her really sad. And then her mom isn't calling anymore. It makes her really sad. The only thing she really had, and her nurse that, Koyoko, who was, trying to help her and teaching her how to use the computer, Rico overheard her talking bad about, talking with another nurse about Rico's situation, and it made Rico feel really bad too. So that was like another negative, like just dagger after dagger after dagger to this poor little girl. And then the only light was that Rin from the forums was coming to visit Rico in the hospital. Unfortunately, Rin gets hit by a bus on her way there and ends up in the hospital in the bed next to Rico. But they don't know, because they've only met online, they don't know, they don't know each other. And from Ryoko's point of view, Rin never showed up. And it just spiraled out of control to the point where Rico ended up committing suicide by jumping out a window. And Rin happened to notice this happen. Like, she has these dreams of Rico jumping out the window and the nurse trying to save her. But in the end, it didn't happen. Rico died. This is where it starts getting like... this is where the like supernatural stuff starts up. So after this happened, the Rin makes a full recovery and leaves the hospital. And between then and like 5 years later, the hospital slowly declines. There's a bunch of like mysterious deaths, and the hospital ends up closing. And then the deaths start happening kind of sporadically all over. These weird, mysterious deaths. And they start associating it to this webpage called The Black Page. And that the rumors start going around that it's this cursed page, that people can see the dead if you go to this page, and there's like a death count or something on how many people have died by going to this page. And I think when we start the game, the counter goes to like 980 or something, 960, I don't know, something like that, but the counter's like in the 900s. So in any case, people are being lured into this webpage, and the webpage is just linking to a forum where people can kind of conversate. And then after you've been to the webpage, you get a phone call, assumingly from Ryoko, and that phone call teleports you to this abyss. What do they call it? The pneumonic abyss. Pneumonic abyss. Pneumanic. So the pneumonic abyss is the like in between life and death, and you're trapped there unless you find some way to get out. And that's what that's kind of where the gameplay story starts. So the gameplay specifically follows Rin, Shin, Chico, and Makoto as alive people in the abyss trying to figure out what's going on and how to escape. Are you with me so far? I think I'm doing okay.
You're doing okay. Yeah.
So we already kind of know Rin's background story. Shin is this like anime nerd. He's really into the like occult stuff. He's really into like the sci-fi and the weird. So that's what drew him in. Chico just recently lost her husband, and she was going to the Black Page to try and reconnect with him. And so that's what led her to the abyss. Makoto recently, he is a reporter, and his partner was doing research on the Black Page when his partner disappeared. And when Makoto was looking through his journals and found, where the research had led to the Black Page, he visited the Black Page and got sucked into the abyss too. So, what story should we focus on? Makoto's, maybe? Or Rin's? Rin, okay. So Rin, when she goes to the abyss, she ends up in a school. And the school is like it's like a nightmare school because it's in this abyss. It's like, haunted and nightmarish and run down. And she finds a cell phone, and the cell phone ends up being one of the ghost girls that roam the halls of the school. There's 3 ghost girls for sure. There's probably more, but there's 3 that specifically haunt the school. And those 3, there's a side story with all that. I'm not going to get into it, but they practically torture her and everybody else that ends up at the school because they're just kind of mischievous like that. And she eventually runs into Makoto, and Makoto explains to her that Makoto's a reporter, by the way. Explains to her that that there are multiple areas in the abyss, but you can only get there by cell phone. Any other exits that exist in like the school area, they all lead to this like portal that goes nowhere. And I didn't bother to jump into the portal, so I don't even know what happens. Maybe we should start it up and see. Yeah, you probably just die, I would assume. But yeah, so every exit leads to just like nothing. So there's nothing outside of the school. You're kind of in a bubble. But there are separate different areas that you can go to, and the cell phone is the key to get between the different areas. Makoto figures this out from his sadao
Yeah.
And he explains this to Rin, and kind of hoping to, the more information they can gather as a whole, the better odds they have of escaping. So later on then she encounters Shin, who's the nerd. He is scared to death of the school. He is being tortured by the 3 ghosts, the 3 girl ghosts that are around. He's being chased. He is just definitely having a tough time there. As all of them would be at this point, but like he really isn't handling it very well at all. So Rin kind of talks to Shin about how the cell phones are, teleporting people around. So he quickly whips open his phone and teleports. And when he teleports, he ends up. You think am I right with the story?
Yeah.
Okay, so when he teleports, he ends up at this
dog
collector's house, which is kind of like a one big apartment with like maybe 2 rooms. And when he teleports there, the like technicalities of this world is when you teleport, you lose your phone. It's almost like you particleize and then you travel through the phone to another phone. And then when you end up there, you still have all of you, but like you don't have your phone. So he had to find another phone. And when he does this, he roams around the doll collector's house and eventually gets attacked by the dolls. And he runs back to the room and then gets swallowed up. Did he get swallowed up by the dolls?
No, he gets a phone call. On the actual
right.
Phone.
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
Like land
phone.
And it's supposedly her.
Rico?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where she's like, I got you. And
I see.
It ends.
Right. And you hear him scream, and I think it seems like I remember a ghost like popping up and like hugging him, like holding him, and then the scene like ends, and you don't know exactly what happened, but you assume he dies. So in any case, back to Rin. She makes her way through the school and eventually finds a way to teleport to the doll collector's house, where she meets Chico. Chico is this old lady who I kind of explained recently lost her husband, and you find out that her husband is the same old man that was in the hospital with Rico.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And she is there in the abyss with Rin, and Rin kind of helps, like she's knocked down on the floor, and Rin helps her up. And Rin, I don't know if she leaves to like try and figure out what's going on or what, but Rin leaves, and when she comes back, Chico's gone. And you find out in the next chapter is like Chico's chapter. Excuse me. You find out that Chico, like a door opened up for her, and she walks through the door. She's in the doll maker's house, or the doll collector's house, and she walks through the door, and it's like you walk through this forest, and then you end up in
of light.
Yeah, this light forest, and then you end up in the hospital where Ryoko was originally. You end up in the hospital, and you're kind of roaming through the hospital. You're collecting a few like small tidbit clues of, you know, her interactions while she was alive and at the hospital. And you eventually kind of get in contact with Rico, who says, you know, you're too special for this place. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't have come here. But she's glad that she did. Because she wanted a friend, and she was happy to see Chico again. Chio. Anyway, so Chio like follows this. I think he was like a conductor.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what he was. But anyway, she follows this guy like through the halls, and then like through another forest, and eventually she wakes up in the hospital, and she's fine, alive in the real world, and everything is fine.
Yeah.
So her connection with Rico saved her life, and she really didn't run into any ghosts along the way. Though I did read that you could, while you're walking through the hospital, there's like an aggressive nurse ghost that you could run into. But I mean, we didn't experience that. So, but in any case, Chico survives. Back to Rin. Rin eventually makes her way to the hospital, and she starts encountering Koyoko. Koyoko, yeah, the nurse.
The nurse.
She ends up running into the nurse and follows the nurse around, who is leaving her clues in the form of diary notes. And these diary notes kind of explain who Rico is, and Rin eventually learns the background story of Rico being sick in the hospital, and realizing that you know, Rin was there to meet Rico, and that, you know, some of the trauma that Rico was, you know, experiencing while in the hospital. And Rico eventually Rin eventually confronts Rico and tries to settle things. And there's like this heartfelt moment of like, oh, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. I didn't break my promise, but you know, I'm still here, and pretty soon I'm gonna be a ghost too, and you know, we can you know, be together forever, sort of thing. So she follows Rico to the hospital room, and Rin sees Rico about to jump into the abyss, and Rin runs to grab her to keep her from going into the abyss, but she just goes right through Rico and ends up falling to her death. Kind of. So at this point, the story kind of splits. So that was like the bad ending, but in the good ending, Makoto, the reporter, starts it. He has his own quest where he is following his partner, who was originally investigating the Black Page and the Abyss, and he finds all these clues of, you know, who he was following, basically the full trail of his partner's investigation through kind of the similar like diary sort of thing where he's finding notes along the way. And all of these things lead to from a player's point of view, you're being told the like logistics of how the abyss works and how, people get teleported into the abyss, and when they do, their memories form like those little bubbles of space. So like Makoto ends up in the nerds room and ends up in like a hotel room and in a barbershop and all these different places, and all these different places correspond to people who have died in the abyss. And the like there was a couple key things to his like playthrough, and his main thing that from a story point of view is that he finds out that the only way to truly communicate with the ghosts is through cell phones, and he tells this to Rin before Rin jumps over the edge. So like, you play the game as Rin and she dies in like the first playthrough, but then you play the game again kind of as Makoto, and Makoto tells Rin about the cell phone thing. And so in that final like cutscene with Rin and Rico, where she's having this heartfelt moment of, I'm so sorry that this happened, we could be together forever sort of thing. Instead of just verbally saying it, she calls Rico on the cell phone and has that talk with her. And after that, Rin wakes up in the hospital room and basically rescues Rico. However, Makoto doesn't have such a good positive ending. He is eventually led by his partner. He's led to Rico's mom's house, where you find out that Rico's mom really wasn't... She was doing what she felt like she could possibly do. She was working as many jobs as she could, trying to pay the hospital bills and support herself. But in the end, it was too much stress on her. She wasn't able to see her daughter as much as she wanted to. She wanted to commit suicide, but just couldn't get herself to do it. And eventually finds out that her daughter committed suicide. And even then, she couldn't get herself to go to the hospital to claim, the body, to, give her a proper burial. And whatever ended up happening to her? I mean, obviously she's in the abyss with everyone, but I don't know. I don't know what happened to her.
Because he leaves the apartment.
Yeah. And there was no like conclusion to it. I would assume that maybe she investigated the Black Page too to try and talk with her daughter, and then just got sucked in. In any case, after you're at Rico's mom's house, Makoto goes to his partner's apartment. And this is where his partner kind of says, you have no choice but to be one of us. Like, when you're one of us, then we can be partners again. And attacks and kills Makoto. And as Makoto's ghost roams the halls and the abyss, he's able to tell Rin about the contact with that the cell phones use. Is the only way to contact with the ghosts. And yeah, that's it. I think we did okay. I think I did it all right. Yeah, I mean, I talked about everybody.
And Rin survived.
Rin survived because she woke up after she saved Rico. After using the cell phone to communicate with her, she saves Rico from jumping out of the window, and she wakes up the next day in her bed.
In her bed,
yeah,
with the cat.
With the black cat that is like your save point through the game. So yeah, there's only 2 survivors, Rin and Chico, the old lady, and I guess I would assume that with Rin kind of solving the issue, that the Black Page would be no more, and the Abyss like eternally is done. But I mean, I don't know. They didn't like conclude it. There are some like weirdness that happens throughout the game that they don't really explain a whole lot of. Like the weird like walk in the park forest scene with Chico was kind of bizarre. Like there's no other time that you're outside, there's no other time that you're in a forest, so it was kind of weird. There's a lady in a red dress that shows up, and from doing research you find out that she shows up like during, like if you do very specific things, she shows up, kind of like a secret hidden ghost that you can find, but there really isn't any like storyline use for her. From what I've read online, she's actually stalking you as the player. So that's kind of a fun little thing. She sends you messages through the like Wii like mail system thing that they have on the Wii. So that's weird. Let's see what else. Oh, and the keys. I still don't know what the keys are for. I have no idea. You collect these like little like key button
Token
things. Yeah. And I don't know what they're for. I have no idea. There's no I don't know. I read something about them being like the zodiac sign and having to do with associating with different characters, but I still don't really understand what the point of collecting them is. So I don't know. So I'm sure that there's a lot more story than just what we've told. But I mean, that's the basics of, you know, like a lot of the ghosts have their own backstories. The girls in the school have their little backstories. Like the doll maker has, or the doll collector has like some sort of weird backstory that's kind of obscure. But yeah, so in any case, that's the story. So what did you think of it, Lori?
I gave it a 7.
I gave it an 8.
I mean, I like Rin's story, but how it is presented is very confusing.
It is very confusing. We spent a lot of time discussing the story and trying to get it straight in our heads so that we can present it to you guys in some cohesive form. Whether or not it was, I don't, it's to be determined. I'd have to listen to it back and know how well I did. But I mean, I feel like I did all right. But the way that I told it is not at all how they told it in the game itself. Now, that said, the game is only like, we put less than 10 hours in.
Yeah.
So like they do a good job at keeping it moving, but a lot of it is told in like the diary that you have to like piece together, and it's told in like the
I mean, what was it, like 6 hours when we finished the first like credits? Like,
yeah.
And technically you could stop there if you don't really care about knowing the logistics of everything.
Right, yeah.
I mean, you get the story.
You get the story and you get like a bad ending.
Yeah.
So yeah, technically you could end it there, but like there is another, 4 hours of gameplay at least. So, there's a lot more story that we could even dig around and find more of. But I mean, for the sake of the podcast, I feel like we got what we needed for the story. It did keep my interest through the whole thing. Like, even though they told it in this funny, weird way, I was constantly intrigued by more information on how the Abyss worked and, how the telephone system worked, like what was going on. And, it was neat because they were... In the game, you were using the telephone like teleportation system as like a means of even getting into a room that was locked. Like, at one point, Rin had 2 cell phones and slid one under a door and then called it and teleported herself to that room, by that teleportation system. So, I mean, it's a neat concept. It's just, they told it in a very odd way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I gave it an 8. It was a good story, but you really have to dig around and think about it in order for it to make any sense. So, you want to move on to graphics?
Sure.
What'd you give it?
A 7.
I gave it an 8 also. What What didn't you like about it? What was like your number one bad graphics thing?
I guess the rooms, how all the rooms were very similar.
Oh yeah,
like when you're in the
I didn't
school,
think about that.
all the classrooms are like
Exactly
carbon
the same.
copies of each
Yeah,
other.
they are.
And like the hospital rooms are all just copies of each other.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I was thinking my number one complaint was like the ghosts themselves weren't really that scary.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't, I mean, aside from the like cheap shot like jump scares that they threw in there, like overall I wasn't really all that scared.
except the one time you turned the corner and there was a chair there.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I totally was freaked out by that. It was like I was turning a corner and I looked at Lauren and I'm like, oh, that scared me. And there was like a chair. Like it wasn't a ghost or anything. It was just a chair. Yeah. There was some pretty cool things. There's a lot of rooms to visit. There's a lot of like different structures that you go through. Like, I kind of talked about most of them. We had the school. We had the hospital. Those were the two big ones. We have the doll maker or the doll collector's house.
You have the old lady's house.
Yep. You have
the apartment.
Both. Yeah, you have both the partner's apartment, but then you also have the nerds like little room. There's like a little internet cafe room that you're in.
Like tiny room where there's just a computer.
Yeah, yep.
The hairdresser.
Yeah, the hairdresser was hotel room. Mm-hmm. That was another one. So
there was a lot of places to like go to.
There was a lot of places to go to, and like every dresser, you could open up all the drawers. I understand.
Let's talk about that in gameplay.
Right, yeah. So like yeah, but I mean the fact that you could open it up and that you could investigate them, I added that as a plus for the graphics, because they added all that extra work to it, even though they didn't utilize it, but like they had it in there, and that's kind of neat. It made me like the first half of the game I spent like opening up everything, like going from room to room to room and opening everything. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
I liked all the effects that they did. Like,
oh yeah,
the fading to black when you're calling.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
I liked that the screen kind of gets redder when you're being chased.
Oh yeah, and every now and then you would like get into this hyper mode where everything is like red with like black flat outlines, or
it's
like
this flat like comic book kind of style.
Yeah, where
it's just like red and black.
Yeah,
or like red and white.
Red and white. Red, white, and black.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I was reading, and maybe this was why it was, but there was like a hyper like scare, and I think that's what that was, where if you just get touched then you die. Like there's no like fighting the ghost. So I think that's what we were doing in that situation, but we obviously didn't die.
Right, yeah.
It was just a cool like
this crazy effect.
Visual.
Yeah. It was really cool.
And then I also liked the like white spirit effect that they did for the old lady.
The old lady and Rin
and the
good ending. Yeah. Because the bad ending, you're following Rin is following Rico to the,
and she's angry.
Yeah. And it's like this like crazy like freak out thing.
Yeah.
And in the good ending, you kind of have that same walk down the hallway where you're following her to the room, but it's in that like white haze, similar to how Chico left. So it was kind of neat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the like spooky atmosphere was done really well. I wasn't necessarily scared, but it was very like creepy and eerie, and the basement was really kind of freaky. Where you could see Rico's body, and like I don't know, it was a creepy place to be walking around.
Though things didn't scare me particularly. I liked all those little things. Like when you do a quick turn, there's like a flash of a face or the flash of the cat or something.
Yeah.
Or like you'll see something falling from the ceiling.
Yep.
I liked all those.
It did add to the game quite a bit. Although they were kind of cheap shots because they had nothing to do with the story, but it was just kind of neat that they added them in. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, I gave it an 8.
7.
So now we're going to talk about gameplay.
All right.
Let's destroy this game now.
We played this together.
We did, more or less.
I played maybe 2 hours.
You were there through the whole thing.
I was there through the whole thing, but
so you experienced it with me.
Actually,
but physically playing it,
the characters was mostly you.
Yeah,
because I hated these controls.
Well, the controls were kind of tough because of how you had to use the nunchuck and the Wii remote, and the nunchuck physically moved you around, where the Wii remote turn your head and your visuals, but if you go too quick, it pops off of the screen or gets locked in a corner, and then you're stuck moving in a funky direction. And that's tough all in itself, especially when you're being chased by a ghost. But it also, that first day, it gave us really bad motion sickness, and it just wasn't easy to play. The second day, I felt like it went fine, so
I think that
I got the hang of playing it.
We had turned off the bobbing thing too.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that helped.
Yeah,
a little bit.
So yeah, the controls are weird. It's weird to get the hang of, but once you get the hang of it, it's not terrible. What I also didn't like was the only interaction that you have with ghosts is they attack you and you have to swing the nunchuck around, or the Wii remote. You just swing the Wii remote, and that's your only defense mechanism, is to swing the remote. And there are sections that you have to do that 7 times in a row, and I'm like, this is so stupid. Just sitting here okay, another one, okay, another one, and just swinging it.
Keep fighting them off.
It was stupid. It was tiring swinging that stupid remote. So yeah, that was kind of annoying. I really liked the telephone system. It's not just the teleporting, but you could record voices with it. You could take pictures with it, though we didn't use it because we actually physically took pictures of the screen with our phones if we needed something.
Though I wonder if you did take pictures, if you see different things in pictures.
Oh yeah, maybe. We did use Google Translate a couple times because there's Japanese
characters on the walls,
handwriting on the walls. So we were looking up to see what they were. Most of them it was nothing, but it was just
they were just scary little tidbits.
Yeah, I'm watching you. Also, the ghost would talk through the cell phone 100% of the time. The ghosts always communicated through the cell phone.
Well, duh.
Right, it's the calling. But what was cool is they would use the Wii remote as the audio for your cell phone. So even when you first boot up the game, it says your Wii remote is the cell phone. So, as when you get a phone call, you push a button on the Wii remote to answer it, and the voice talks out of the Wii remote. So that was kind of a fun little, I don't know, it was just a quirk that they did,
Good use of the technology.
Yeah.
That they had then for the
Wii. The puzzles were fun, though they only kind of had a few. They didn't have that many puzzles. The first hour of the game, we got into that janitor's closet where we had to do the key combination to unlock the key for the nurse's room or something. and you had to like add up the dates to get the total and then use that as the combination. I loved that. And I'm like, yes, if this is what this game is going to be, where you gotta, you fight off ghosts and then you go into a puzzle and then you fight off ghosts and you go into a puzzle.
There just wasn't enough.
There wasn't enough of that. Yeah, it wasn't. And I was kind of sad. I was looking forward to like a good challenging puzzle.
There was a lot of exploration.
Yeah.
However,
dead end exploration.
Yes, like they didn't reward you for your exploration very much
at all.
I mean, like you go into a room to find something, you're only looking for that one specific thing. So like
once you find it, you're done. You may as well leave the room because there's nothing else in there. Like you find the one thing that you need and then you just leave. Yeah, that was very annoying. And kind of going back to what I was talking about with the graphics, you have all these drawers that you can open up, but like 90% of them have nothing in it. Like nothing. You can't, like a lot of stuff you can click and it will say some sort of description about the object. Nothing. Like you can open up drawers and you can see objects in there, but you can't investigate them whatsoever. They did have a pretty cool, I don't know what you want to call it. Like you could use the Wii remote to click on an item, and there were some items that you could actually like pick up and investigate. And basically you rotated the Wii remote to like try and rotate the object and investigate the object. So most of the time it was like finding batteries.
Like 3 times maybe?
Yeah. But it was kind of neat because you had this like, 3D object that you were looking at.
There was a lot of neat concepts that they didn't use enough of it. You know?
If they were to do that a little bit more, like I feel like they could make a new game with all these same ideas and it would just have been so much better if they just expanded on it more. More puzzles, more like investigation type stuff, and I would have had way more fun. But it just kind of fell short. If you don't have a light in this game, you're dead in the water.
If you don't have your flashlight.
If you don't have your flashlight or like the candle.
Or the candle, which you get in the house.
You can't do anything.
You can't look at anything. Like you can see stuff.
You can see that there's something there to look at.
But your character can't see it.
Yeah. Yep. It's so dumb. Like, don't even show that icon. If I can't see, like, if I can't interact with it, don't even show me the icon. Like, I don't want to know that it's there. That was probably the number one frustrating thing of this game.
When you lose your flashlight,
you lose your and it happens a couple times, and your goal is to then find light. But like, you're in the middle of this new area and you want to look at everything, but you have no light, so you can't. Yeah. Very frustrating. And then by the time you find the light, you're in a different area, and then you got to backtrack to figure out what was there. Yeah. The jump scares got old really fast. Like, I guess it was desensitizing.
Yeah.
Like, after the first, 2 minutes, I'm like, okay, so there's a jump scare at every corner. Just, you go into it knowing that it happens, and then you're like, okay, I don't even care anymore.
They could have threw some different things in the mix. You know, like a door opening while you're walking or something. Yeah.
Just weirdness.
I mean, wasn't there, in the beginning, a broom or something fell?
Yep.
They could have done that more.
Yep.
Instead of
Instead, they have the you have a button that you can quick turn around, and maybe 40% of the time when you do that,
you get a flash.
You get a flash, of a ghostly face. Has nothing to do with the story, has nothing to do with the area that you're in. The ghost doesn't attack you, it's just there, and then it's gone, just to give you a jump scare. Every now and then, if you're running through the halls, you'll get a shadow that passes over the screen. While you're walking through the halls, you might hear light bulbs fall and break, or things rattling around. Though you don't visually see them, you can kind of hear them in the background. Again, trying to give you this spook. But really, a lot of it was cheap shots and got old quick.
The dolls.
Yeah.
And the clown.
Yeah, the clown. Yeah, okay. So like the doll collector's house really had no significance to the story whatsoever. It was just like a location. But it was like they used that space so much just because dolls are creepy. It was like they had one clown like toy. And
that was in the hospital.
Yeah, there was no reason for it to be there. And at one point
as you're leaving, it like starts up and comes to you, and that's it.
Yeah, and then it dies, and then your character's like, "Oh right, I need batteries," and then that's it. Like you can't pick up the little thing. You can't do anything. It's just there to be creepy, and it just felt like unnecessary. Like I don't know, just flatness. In what otherwise could have been a really good game. You know, they had the elements there. They just didn't use them right.
Should we move on to music?
What did you give it for gameplay? Did we talk about that?
Yeah, I said I gave it a 5.
Oh, I gave it a 6. So far, all of our scores are just like
you're like one
up from you.
Yeah. So music. What'd you give it?
I gave it a 7.
I gave it an 8.
Oh, really? What? Wow, that's surprising. Okay.
I liked all the ambient noise.
Yeah.
I liked the, the breaking light bulbs or stuff falling in the background. Not that you can see anything.
Right, but it was like the audio.
Spooky noises are there. And the Wii remote thing, using it as your cell phone.
Yeah, it was cool.
I liked that.
It was cool, and the voices sounded super creepy. The voice acting was terrible.
The English voice acting.
And yeah, I mean, maybe the Japanese was great. I thought about changing it to Japanese just because the English voice acting was so bad.
We should have changed the voice.
It was so bad.
Had like the subtitles.
Yeah, it would have been a lot easier. But yeah, a lot of the voice acting was just like literally reading lines like, I wanted to help her. I wanted to help her so much. And it was just like, why? How did they consider that acceptable? Like, I think, what was his name? The reporter guy, Makoto. His voice acting was pretty good. Rin's was okay. But like everyone else, it was this like weird. I don't know if they were aiming for the weirdness or if it was just like bad voice acting. Like I can't tell.
The cell phone ringing was really loud.
It was really loud.
Like it was abnormally loud for the rest of the game.
I think it's because it rings on your Wii remote and on TV. So like you have the like double audio coming at you, so it is like abnormally loud. Because I think we turned up our Wii remote audio so we could both hear it. But with the ringing being on the Wii remote and the TV, it just was too much, I think. But yeah, you're right. It was like ear piercing and really loud. Some of the ringing of the ghosts, like when they're in the room, there's like this and that noise like in itself is a good like indicator, okay, there's a ghost nearby that I need to look at. But there was like one section where Rico was sitting on the chair, and every time you walked by that area it was like like, shut up. I'm done hearing that noise.
It was like, you're supposed to look at something here, but there was nothing to look at.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there was nothing to interact with. Like, there was no point, like, other than just saying, okay, she's sitting there. Like, she is sitting there. She's sitting. You don't need to make that noise every single time. Just have her be there. Like, but yeah, otherwise, there was a handful of actual music. There wasn't a whole lot, but there was a handful of sections that had actual music that I think helped portray some of the emotion of the section that it was playing in. Like towards the end where Rin is like expressing, everything to Rico, and there's like this piano playing, and it's, nice and soft and dramatic, and it fit really well. And really all the moments that they had some sort of music in it, it fit pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It was good.
Yep. So overall, I gave it an 8 out of 10.
7.
Okay. You know, I had a fun time figuring out the story. Like, even though it was kind of crazy and all over the place, like, that's what I had the most fun doing, was unlocking the story and figuring it out.
Yeah. Rico's and Rin's story.
Yeah. Yeah.
The rest of it was just confusing.
Filler. Yeah. Unnecessary. Chico's, like, little story was fun.
It was fun, yeah.
Where, you know,
you get a different, like, experience.
Her husband, you know, she loved. Stop, Riley. Be good. Shh. Her, you know, she lost her husband. She really wanted to see her husband again. It just so happened that her husband was Rico's, like, only friend. And so, you know, obviously her experience in the abyss was very peaceful and happy and not a problem. Where everyone else, it was this, like, spooky experience. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't think it was a terrible game.
I'm sorry, I want to talk about a couple scenes that
absolutely.
I liked overall.
Yeah.
I liked the music room scene where you had to sneak in there to get your cell phone.
Yeah, that was an interesting part of the game.
Like, the 3 girls were in there playing the piano, and you had to, like, sneak in there while they were playing to get the cell phone, and when they stopped playing, you had to hide.
Yeah.
I liked that.
I bet you did. It wasn't as fun for me because I had to actually do it. No, it wasn't so bad. I really liked when you grab the phone and she's like, "What are you doing?" And then they start chasing you. That it was cool. It was pretty cool.
And then I liked the hairdresser scene.
That was probably the, like, scariest one, yeah. Because you couldn't fight her off. She had scissors.
And she was going to kill you.
And she was freaking using them. Like, if she got a hold of you, she stabbed you and killed you. Like, that was probably the most violent scene, too. Like, there was no, like, escaping that one. Like, your goal was to get the scissors, but, like, you get to the hairdresser, there was no scissors there. It's because the ghost has the scissors. And when you realize this, the ghost, like, morphs through the mirror, which was a pretty cool scene.
Yeah.
The ghost morphs through the mirror and then like, chases you, and your goal is to get to the next room and shut and lock the door. Well, she blocks the entrance to that room, so you have to, like, methodically, like, lure her out of the entrance of the door so that you can, like, run around her and get into the door and then shut it. But then, like, after you shut the door, she, like, bangs on the door and, like, scratches at the door for a while, and then she eventually goes away. And when you open the door, like, you can see the scissors sticking in the door, like, slash marks all over. It was intense, for sure, intense. And man, if she got you, you were dead. There was no fighting. It was just like, you're dead.
Yeah, it was one of those, like, red, white, black kind of sequences.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting game. So my total score was a 37 out of 50.
Mine was 34.
So that's a 71.
Yep.
And 71 is a C minus, which it fits.
It's pretty fair, yeah.
This is like my first horror game that I've completely finished. I've played, like, Last of Us before, and it's kind of horror survival, but, like, I don't know, it was fun to see, like, this one. Just kind of rough around the edges, you know. I don't know if it was, like, a bad production or just, like, rushed or what, but it was kind of not very well put together. It could have been better.
It was like... It's like halfway there.
Yeah, it really is. There's a few things if they'd just fixed a few, because the story was pretty good. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
I think they didn't tell it very well, but the story itself was pretty good. But in the gameplay is where it really fell apart. Like, the Wii remote was really cool, but like the motion thing sucked. Just, I don't know. But yeah, that's our review for Calling on the Wii. Nice little spooky game for October. Halloween. Speaking of, our next game is going to be Luigi's Mansion on the GameCube, with Luigi's Mansion 3 being released on Halloween, I think. So, thought it would be appropriate to actually play this game. I haven't played it before at all, so it'll be nice to pick it up. I'm not really sure if Kaylee's going to be playing it with me or if you're going to be playing it with me. We don't know yet, but somebody is. I'm playing it. Somebody will be playing it with me. So we're going to hash out all the details, but we'll let you guys know as we know more. And yeah, thank you guys for listening and watching, and leave us some reviews on iTunes so we can talk about it on Zap Chats, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.